Hi everybody, this is Tyler Danzel, EDL 856. This is Module 5, Understanding My Community. I teach at Derby Middle School in Derby, Kansas, but I actually don't live in Derby. I live about 17 miles away in West Wichita. So this project was a little bit of a challenge for me in truly trying to understand the community that I work in, but I also have to understand that that may be the case as an administrator. I may not actually be in the community where I'm at. So, but anyway, City of Derby, on their website, derbyweb.com, they list a set of 11 values. And they also have a community vision and a mission statement. And their mission is to create vibrant neighborhoods, nurture a strong business community, and preserve beautiful green spaces. And my observations are that they're doing an excellent job of that. You can just tell by being in the city that those things are important to the city of Derby. The history of Derby, it was founded in 1871. It was originally called El Paso because of confusion with El Paso, Texas, and I guess mail was being sent to the wrong places. The railroad depot in Derby was renamed Derby in 1880. The city was formally incorporated in 1903, although it was still called El Paso at that time. And then in 1956, they officially changed the name of El Paso to Derby. From 1950 to 1960, the population grew almost 6,000 people. The big event that happened at that time was McConnell Air Force Base opened just north of Derby, and there were many airmen that decided to find housing in the city of Derby. Customs and traditions. So Derby is a place that appears to really promote a high quality of life, and that's shown by some of the things that they offer their citizens. There are two 18-hole golf courses. There's a recreation commission that has a recreation center, but also hosts lots of sports leagues. Rock River Rapids is a water amusement park that opened several years back. There are 28 parks in the city that cover 330 acres. They, of course, have a public library, and they host several events, one of them being the annual Derby Barbecue Festival. There's also a weekly farmers market during the warm weather months. There are 24 Christian churches that were listed in Derby, although I can think of a few other churches that are not listed, that were not in that list, that are in Derby. So there's lots of churches there. Other values, education is very important to the city of Derby. Of course, that's mainly through the USD 260. Another value is sports, and especially football. Those of you from Kansas are probably familiar with Derby football. It's traditionally been very strong, but especially so over the last 4 or 5 years. They've won 3 of the last 5 state championships, and one of the years they didn't win, they were the runner-up. It is a program that spans from first grade all the way through 12th grade. It's pretty wild, actually, but sports are valued very highly in the city of Derby. Some demographics. So the population of the city is over 23,000 as of last year. Since 2010, the population has grown over 35%. Overall, it's a very educated city. Over 50% of the population has an associate's degree or better. Right now, 53%, or over 12,000 people, are of working age, so age 25 to 65. Generally, the population is split pretty evenly between male and female. Income. Compared to Kansas's average, the median household income and the average household income are much higher than the Kansas average. Derby is an overwhelmingly white city, almost 92%. Most of the occupations that are in Derby are considered white-collar occupations, and most of the occupations are in service industries. There is a government access channel in Derby where people can get information about government happenings within the city. There's a Derby News newsletter that is distributed into the residents' water bills every month. There's a weekly newspaper in Derby called the Derby Informer. And so those are some of the communication channels that are just within Derby. However, with it being so close to Wichita, there are numerous radio stations in Wichita and television stations as well where people get information. Community groups, of course, there's a Chamber of Commerce, the Derby Community Foundation, the Derby Education Foundation, and then also something called the Oaklawn Improvement District. So the Derby School District, I'll talk more about this later, but the Derby School District actually extends into Wichita, into a couple of areas. One of those areas is called Oaklawn, and there is a group in Oaklawn that is working to improve the Oaklawn area. So some influential Derby leaders. The city council is made up of 9 members. There, of course, is a mayor and then a city manager. They have a chief of police, a fire chief. The Chamber of Commerce CEO is Mark Stotts. Superintendent of schools is Heather Bohati. Superintendent in Derby is very influential. I also consider the principal of Derby High School to be very influential. And then once again, as silly as this may sound, the head football coach at Derby High School is also a big influencer in the community. So there are 500, as of 2017, there are 574 businesses in Derby with a total workforce of over 11,000 people. On the Derby website, they have a very thorough economic development plan laid out as to how they want to use the land that's in Derby and how they want to continue to develop economically. Average home values as of 2016 were $161,000, but average new home values were almost $240,000. So some of my observations about the economic conditions in Derby, the area is growing like crazy. There are lots of new businesses, lots of national chain retailers that have set up shop in Derby, and it's really, really growing economically. So education, there are 9 elementary schools, 9 public elementary schools in Derby and 2 private, 2 public middle schools and 1 private, and then 1 public high school in Derby. The Derby Public Schools vision is every student, every day preparing for the future. So there are nearly 6,800 students enrolled in USD 260 schools. Just over 80% of those students are white, so comparing that to the town of Derby, there's a little bit of a difference there. Derby High School is the 10th largest high school in the state as of 2016. So I mentioned earlier that there are 2 areas that Derby schools also pull from that are not in Derby. Number 1 is Oaklawn. So Oaklawn is an area in South Wichita, and it's a little bit economically depressed, I guess you'd say. The demographics are quite different than Derby. So there's a little bit of tension there, I would say. I don't know if there's actual tension, but economic tensions, I can see that. So median household income in 2016 was just under $30,000. Again, comparing that to Derby at over $60,000, it's very interesting. Over 30% of the families in Oaklawn speak something other than English at home. The other area where Derby pulls students from is McConnell Air Force Base. There are over 1,700 people that live on the base. 75% of those people are white, so there's some different ethnicities that are on the base, especially compared to the city of Derby. Median household income on the base is very close to the Kansas state average. So measuring public opinion, one of the ways this has been done recently is through the Process for Success meetings that the school district has held. There will be a bond election in 2018. Derby's trying to pass a bond, and so they did some phone surveys during 2017, also some online surveys as well to gather information about what people would be willing to vote for in an upcoming bond. Basically, to summarize it real quickly, they surveyed patrons in all areas of the district, so that included Oak Lawn and McConnell Air Force Base. And patrons were strongly in favor of issues that would improve the safety or education of their schools. So, other issues, social tensions, multicultural issues. As far as the city of Derby is concerned, it's not very diverse. The population is overwhelmingly white. But within the schools, there are some tensions. There have been previously some gang issues at Derby High School. Many of those students are coming from the Oak Lawn area, coming from Wichita. So there's been some tensions there. But as far as the city of Derby is concerned, I don't see those tensions. My final thoughts, again, Derby is a very nice city. It's growing economically. Many people actually do work in Wichita. So there are lots of employment opportunities in the city of Derby, but a large majority also work in Wichita as well. Thank you very much for viewing my presentation, and we'll talk to you later.